Before the world knew him as the fearless face of action cinema, Bruce Willis was simply Walter Bruce Willis, a frightened child trying to survive the cruelty of silence. Born in West Germany in 1955 to an American soldier and a German mother, he was raised in the industrial atmosphere of Penns Grove, New Jersey, where toughness mattered more than vulnerability. But Bruce carried a secret burden that isolated him from the world around him. At the age of 9, he developed a severe stutter that turned every sentence into a battle. Words became traps, conversations became humiliations. School children mocked him relentlessly, giving him cruel nicknames and laughing as he struggled to force syllables through his throat. For a boy overflowing with energy and imagination, the inability to communicate felt like imprisonment. Yet inside that humiliation, something unexpected began to grow. Bruce discovered that humor could disarm people before they attacked him. If he could make classmates laugh intentionally, they would stop laughing at his pain. He became loud, expressive, and theatrical, masking fear with performance. Without realizing it, the child who felt voiceless was slowly building the charisma that would one day captivate millions around the world. The stage that set him free. Everything changed when Bruce stepped onto a stage for the first time during high school. Terrified yet desperate to escape invisibility, he joined the drama club, expecting embarrassment but discovering liberation instead. The miracle was immediate. Whenever he acted as someone else, the stutter vanished completely. The boy who struggled to finish a sentence suddenly delivered dialogue with confidence and rhythm. Acting became more than a hobby. It became freedom itself. Bruce later described the experience as life-changing because it allowed him to communicate without fear for the first time. The stage transformed him from a silent outsider into a magnetic personality. He gained popularity, confidence, and leadership, eventually becoming student council president. Yet beneath that confidence remained the anxiety of a working-class kid, uncertain about his future. After graduation, reality hit hard. Hollywood was not waiting for him. He worked ordinary jobs, including security work at a nuclear plant, and even spent time as a private investigator. Those experiences sharpened the blue-collar authenticity that later defined his most famous characters. But the feeling he experienced on stage never disappeared from his heart. The freedom of performance haunted him constantly. Eventually, unable to ignore the dream any longer, he packed his belongings and headed toward New York City, determined to chase a future no one else could yet see. The bartender with movie star energy. New York in the late 1970s was gritty, chaotic, and unforgiving, but it became the perfect training ground for Bruce Willis. He lived in tiny apartments, struggled financially, and fought through endless rejection while trying to establish himself as an actor. To survive, he worked as a bartender at the famous Kamikaze Club on Manhattan's Upper West Side. But Bruce did not simply serve drinks. He entertained crowds like a performer commanding a stage. Customers came for his humor, swagger, and unpredictable energy. He cracked jokes, slid drinks dramatically across counters, flirted shamelessly, and handled confrontations with effortless cool. Every night behind that bar sharpened the wisecracking persona that later became legendary on movie screens. Yet despite his charisma, Hollywood gatekeepers remained unconvinced. Casting directors thought he lacked traditional leading man looks. His receding hairline and rough-edged appearance made him seem ordinary in an era dominated by polished stars. Audition after audition ended in disappointment. He picked up tiny roles, including an uncredited appearance in The Verdict, but success felt painfully distant. Approaching 30 years old, Bruce feared the dream was slipping away forever. The pressure led to heavy partying and self-doubt. Still, buried beneath exhaustion and rejection was an energy too strong to disappear. Fate was quietly preparing the bartender from Hell's Kitchen for the audition that would alter television history forever. The audition that changed television. In 1984, Bruce Willis walked into an audition room carrying almost no expectations. The television pilot was called Moonlighting, and network executives wanted a polished romantic lead to star opposite Sybil Shepherd. Instead, they encountered Bruce wearing combat boots, radiating chaotic confidence, and looking nothing like a conventional television heartthrob. But when he read the dialogue, something extraordinary happened. He transformed the lines into rapid-fire wit filled with charm, arrogance, and spontaneity. Executives hated him initially, believing he looked too rough and unrefined for mainstream audiences. One reportedly said he resembled a plumber rather than a star. Yet creator Glenn Gordon Caron recognized a rare spark hidden beneath the rough exterior. Against the network's wishes, he fought fiercely to cast Bruce. That decision changed television forever. Moonlighting exploded into a cultural phenomenon. The chemistry between Bruce and Sybil Shepherd captivated audiences, turning him overnight into one of America's most recognizable faces. The former bartender suddenly won an Emmy, appeared on magazine covers, and became a household name. The irony was powerful. The boy once mocked for his inability to speak had become famous for his fast-talking charm. Yet television success also introduced a new challenge. Hollywood still believed television actors could never become major movie stars. Bruce Willis was about to challenge that assumption in spectacular fashion. The gamble called Die Hard. When casting began for Die Hard, Bruce Willis was considered an absurd choice for an action hero. Studios initially pursued giants like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and Harrison Ford. After they declined, the role eventually landed with the television comedian best known for selling wine coolers in commercials. Critics laughed openly at the casting decision. Action stars during the 1980s were supposed to be invincible, muscle-bound warriors. Bruce looked human. Worse still, the studio paid him an enormous salary, provoking headlines accusing Hollywood of insanity. Executives were so nervous that early posters for the film barely showed his face. Yet audiences discovered something revolutionary once the movie premiered. Bruce's character, John McClane, was vulnerable. He sweated, bled, panicked, and stumbled through danger, while relying on sarcasm to survive emotionally. He was not a superhero. He was an exhausted everyman trapped in impossible circumstances. That humanity transformed action cinema forever. Bruce combined the humor he learned behind New York bars with the vulnerability forged through childhood struggles. The result became iconic. The public did not merely accept him, they embraced him completely. Die Hard turned Bruce Willis into a global superstar and permanently changed what audiences expected from action heroes. The former stuttering child had now conquered Hollywood itself through authenticity rather than perfection. Fame, marriage, and the pressure of perfection. By the early 1990s, Bruce Willis had become one of the most famous people on earth. Alongside Demi Moore, he formed Hollywood royalty. Their marriage fascinated the media because together they represented glamour, wealth, and rebellious charisma. They attempted to escape the spotlight by raising their daughters in Idaho, hoping for normal family life away from paparazzi chaos. But fame followed them everywhere. Helicopters circled their property, photographers stalked their movements, and tabloids treated their private lives as public property. Professionally, Bruce experienced both triumph and humiliation. While he remained enormously bankable, some projects damaged his reputation badly. Hudson Hawk became one of Hollywood's most infamous failures, convincing critics that Bruce's ego had overtaken his talent. Many declared his career finished. Yet Bruce repeatedly demonstrated resilience whenever the industry underestimated him. In 1994, he accepted a reduced salary to appear in Pulp Fiction, directed by Quentin Tarantino. The gamble revived his artistic credibility instantly. Soon afterward came a remarkable run of successes, including The Fifth Element, Armageddon, and eventually The Sixth Sense. Behind the confidence and blockbuster success, however, emotional exhaustion quietly accumulated. Fame had delivered wealth and admiration, but it also created relentless pressure that slowly isolated the man beneath the celebrity image. The quiet fractures behind the legend. As the 2000s unfolded, subtle changes began appearing in Bruce Willis that the public misunderstood entirely. After divorcing Demi Moore in 2000, Bruce maintained a remarkably close relationship with his family, prioritizing co-parenting over bitterness. Yet professionally, the entertainment landscape around him was changing rapidly. Superhero franchises began dominating cinema, while traditional action stars from the 1980s struggled to remain culturally central. Bruce continued working constantly, but interviews became increasingly uncomfortable. He appeared detached, impatient, and uninterested in maintaining celebrity charm. Journalists interpreted this behavior as arrogance. Critics accused him of becoming lazy and emotionally disconnected from his craft. On film sets, whispers circulated that Bruce seemed distracted and exhausted. He no longer approached projects with the same enthusiasm that once energized entire productions. Many assumed wealth and fame had simply made him indifferent. But something deeper was unfolding beneath the surface. The actor, famous for memorizing pages of rapid dialogue, was beginning to struggle with communication itself. Scripts that once felt effortless suddenly became difficult to process. concentration weakened, confusion emerged unexpectedly. To outsiders, these moments appeared like carelessness from an aging movie star, unwilling to put in effort anymore. Nobody yet realized that Bruce was entering the earliest stages of a devastating neurological decline. The man who had spent his entire life fighting to overcome speech barriers was about to confront an enemy far crueler than childhood stuttering. The era the world mocked beginning. Around 2014, Bruce Willis entered the most criticized phase of his career. He appeared in a flood of low-budget action films that audiences and critics considered embarrassingly poor. Titles such as Cosmic Sin, Apex, and Hard Kill flooded streaming platforms and bargain bins. The formula became painfully obvious. Bruce's image dominated posters, despite his limited screen time in the actual films. He often appeared for only a few scenes, speaking minimally and showing little emotional engagement. Internet commentators accused him of destroying his own legacy for easy money. The criticism became vicious. People mocked his flat performances, his apparent boredom, and the visible earpieces hidden during scenes. Few realized those earpieces were feeding him dialogue because memorization had become increasingly difficult. Directors quietly rewrote scripts to shorten his lines. Crew members guided him physically through scenes because confusion frequently interrupted filming. What audiences interpreted as laziness was actually a heartbreaking struggle against cognitive decline. Bruce himself likely sensed that something terrifying was happening inside his mind. Rather than retreat immediately, he worked relentlessly, filming project after project at extraordinary speed. To the public, it looked greedy. In reality, he was racing against time, trying to secure financial stability for his wife Emma and his daughters before the illness made acting impossible. Behind every criticized performance stood a father desperately protecting his family's future. The diagnosis that changed everything. On March 30, 2022, the narrative surrounding Bruce Willis changed forever. His family released a public statement announcing that he had been diagnosed with aphasia, a neurological condition affecting language and communication abilities. Suddenly, years of confusion made painful sense. The actor, celebrated for sharp wit and rapid dialogue, was losing the ability to process and express language itself. The reaction from Hollywood and audiences was immediate shock mixed with guilt. People who had mocked his recent performances realized they had been watching a man battle a devastating illness in public without understanding the truth. Even the Golden Raspberry Awards, which had recently created a category mocking Bruce's performances, rescinded the award and apologized publicly. But the heartbreak deepened in 2023 when the family revealed the more specific diagnosis: frontotemporal dementia, often abbreviated as FTD. Unlike Alzheimer's disease, FTD primarily attacks behavior, personality, communication, and emotional regulation. It is progressive, incurable, and devastatingly cruel. The revelation transformed public perception entirely. The so-called cash grab years suddenly looked like acts of survival and sacrifice. Bruce was not carelessly destroying his reputation. He was fighting desperately to continue working while he still could. Every film became evidence of determination rather than decline. The public no longer saw an arrogant movie star. They saw a husband and father trying to hold on to purpose as his mind slowly betrayed him. A family choosing love over privacy. After the diagnosis became public, the Willis family made a remarkable decision. Instead of hiding Bruce away from the world, they chose honesty and openness. His wife, Emma Hemming Willis, became a powerful advocate for dementia awareness, sharing emotional reflections about caregiving, grief, and resilience. Demi Moore also remained deeply involved, proving that family bonds can survive divorce and evolve into something stronger. Together, Bruce's blended family demonstrated extraordinary unity during unimaginable hardship. Their public support reshaped how many people viewed illness, aging, and masculinity. Bruce Willis had spent decades portraying indestructible heroes who defeated impossible enemies through strength and humor. But now the world witnessed a different kind of courage entirely. Real courage looked like vulnerability. It looked like daughters holding their father's hand while memories faded. It looked like former spouses standing together without resentment. It looked like Emma speaking honestly about exhaustion and heartbreak while still protecting Bruce's dignity. Fans responded with overwhelming compassion because the family's transparency humanized a disease, often hidden behind closed doors. Through painful honesty, they transformed private suffering into public awareness. The actor who once saved fictional worlds on screen was now inspiring people in a much more meaningful way. His story became larger than cinema. It became a reminder that even legends are fragile human beings, deserving empathy rather than judgment. The legacy hidden beneath the silence. Today, Bruce Willis remains one of the defining icons of modern cinema, but his legacy carries far deeper meaning than explosions, gunfights, or sarcastic one-liners. His life tells the story of resilience in its purest form. As a child, he fought through debilitating stuttering and humiliation. As a struggling actor, he survived rejection and poverty. As a movie star, he repeatedly overcame criticism and career setbacks. And during his final years on screen, he endured cognitive decline while continuing to work for the people he loved most. That final chapter, once mocked relentlessly, now feels profoundly tragic and heroic at the same time. Audiences originally saw an aging celebrity carelessly damaging his reputation. In truth, they were witnessing a man trying to preserve his family's future before disease stole his abilities completely. There is heartbreaking poetry in the fact that Bruce Willis built his identity around communication and charisma, only to face an illness that attacked those exact gifts. Yet even in silence, his impact remains powerful. Films like Die Hard, Pulp Fiction, and The Sixth Sense continue inspiring audiences because they captured something authentic beneath the swagger, vulnerability. Bruce Willis never became beloved because he seemed invincible. He became beloved because he always looked human, even while standing in the middle of impossible chaos. The man behind the action hero. The final image of Bruce Willis should not be reduced to illness, confusion, or tragedy alone. His story is ultimately about persistence, reinvention, and love. He entered the world as a frightened child, unable to express himself clearly, and somehow transformed into one of the most recognizable voices in entertainment history. Along the way, he redefined action heroes by making them flawed, wounded, and emotionally relatable. He challenged Hollywood expectations repeatedly, proving charisma could matter more than perfection, and humanity could matter more than image. Even his most painful years carried hidden dignity because they revealed the depth of his devotion as a father and husband. Bruce kept working not because he was greedy, but because responsibility mattered to him. While strangers mocked him online, he was quietly fighting an invisible battle that few could understand. That reality changes everything about how his later career should be remembered. Instead of a decline, it becomes a testament to endurance. Instead of embarrassment, it becomes sacrifice. And perhaps that is the most fitting ending possible for Bruce Willis. The man who spent decades portraying heroes facing impossible odds turned out to be heroic in real life too. Not because he defeated the disease, but because he continued showing up despite fear, confusion, and suffering. Long after the cameras stop rolling, that quiet courage may become his greatest performance of all.